Hi, I'm Kat, I play Sims, and I decided to make a street of occult houses for individual occult types. The first one I rolled for was vampire. I decided to make the footprint of all the houses the same size, but only on the ground floor, and then everything above that could be different depending on how I felt about the occult house. For the vampire one, I just did a second floor that was a lot thinner than the first one. I put a little dormer on it just to make things interesting, and I had a few dead plants and open spaces on the roof as well. I believe I've used the Enchanted by Nature roof texture because I just really like that one. And I used a fair bit of life and death in this build as well as vampires. Obviously for the vampire house I was going for quite a dark gothic theme. I put just a bunch of stained glass windows in red. Tried to make it look a little bit more interesting, but honestly it does sort of look like I auto-placed windows. I fenced off a yard space with a vampire's fence, and I decided to make it a bit of a house-side cemetery. I just put some concrete texture around the front, and I went looking for little bits and pieces to decorate the front of the house to make it a little bit more busy and less plain. I used a decent amount of debug items from vampires as well, and I tried trims and things like that, but nothing really stood out, so I just kept the walls fairly blank. I got a bit of terrain paint under everything and then started looking for different trees and things. Most of the landscaping for this particular house was dead plants and dead trees, lots of stuff from vampires, and I went digging in the debug for a couple of extra little bits of flowers that weren't too bright but just filled in a space nicely. I put an archway and a sculpture out front, and then I used debug fences, just filling in as much space as possible so it wasn't quite as bland. I turned the side into a cemetery. I also got a statue of Vlad to put in the back garden right behind the house, and I just put a little bit of landscaping behind that, and then I stuck the grave plots in just to finish off the cemetery properly and put a few little bits of flowers and landscaping back. I moved on to the top floor, which was going to be the bedroom. I just got the stairs in position because the top was so skinny. I just separated off a bathroom at the back and made a little bit of space for shelves at the top of the stairs. The downstairs floor plan was fairly simple. I put another bathroom in next to the stairs. I wanted a formal dining room and the kitchen separated off, and then the rest of the space was a living area. Most of the lights were life and death chandeliers, the bathrooms were brighter, and I used a vampire's wood floor that I rarely get to use because it's so busy. And I did put vampire's wallpaper everywhere for now, but I changed it. Upstairs got the life and death wallpaper straight away, and then I put it in a few rooms downstairs as well because I like the pattern better and it still seemed to fit with the floor. Most of the interior doors were quite plain. I used archways between the big spaces, and it was the Riviera Retreat arch. It just fit nicely with the scheme of the house. I gave the two bathrooms a stony wallpaper, and then I moved on to the bedroom. Obviously vampires don't need beds as such, they have coffins, so I put a nice fancy one in there, and then I put a life and death rug underneath and just played with the colour scheme a little bit. And then I moved on to the bookshelves at the top of the stairs, which are also life and death. These ones have got a good couple of spaces for cluttering, so I just grabbed some things from vampires, from paranormal, and from life and death to fill in the gaps. I got some tapestries for the wall, and I put in a radiator as well. I got a sofa from vampires, and I put it in the beige swatch because that was kind of the colour scheme I was following up here, was a dark brown and beige sort of thing. I did some wall decorations with paranormal. I got a hanging plant, a gallery wall, and then a few portraits of the ghosts and of Vlad for the main wall that was quite blank. After the bedroom, I moved on to the upstairs bathroom, and all the items I used were vampires. I got a fuzzy rug from Snowy Escape, and I just put a couple of little bits of clutter in there, but not too much. I did put a mirror in because as far as I know that's not a problem vampire sims have, and then I moved on to the downstairs bathroom, which is actually quite a lot bigger. I used a lot of life and death in this one rather than all vampires. I did a lot more decorating with shelves, and I used the sleep bathroom kit for the toilet. Basically this one was a lot nicer because it was like the guest bathroom that the other occult neighbours would use when they come over, so it wasn't quite as suited to a vampire but to other people as well. I cluttered this one up a lot more with different bathroom items. I put some cosy blankets up on the shelf. I used custom content in this bathroom, and I used a lot of it to create a custom gallery wall as well. After this bathroom I decided to tackle the entryway space, which I wanted to be slightly different because it was a vampire house. In the big space beside the bathroom, I decided to put the life and death memorial table and just stick some candles on the wall to light it up as well. After that, I moved on to the kitchen. Vampires don't really need kitchens as such, but I thought if they've got a guest bathroom, then they need to be able to feed guests as well. So I used the life and death kitchen set in like a dark red colour. I moved the back door off to the side a little bit to fit more counters in. It's a really big kitchen, so I added a lot of upper counters as well as lower ones. And I decided to add a bar right in the corner there as well. I did put the sad clown painting above it. I'm not entirely sure why, but I liked how it looked, and I used the cozy gamer rug and started cluttering the area. This was a lot of different packs and some custom content as well. I put some aprons up on the wall and I put some nectar bottles and glasses out on the bench. Most of the clutter that I put down wasn't really food related, it was more drinks and herbs, mostly just to give the impression that the kitchen is owned by an occult who doesn't really cook very often and most of it's for show. I did want to put a kitchen island in at first, but I think I decided against it in the end. After the kitchen, I moved on to the formal dining room and I decided to make it as fancy as possible, so I used a huge table, life and death chairs, and I got a fireplace in the corner from the Bella Goth kit. I had a window up there at first, but then I deleted it and put some artwork up instead. That was actually an item from Lovestruck, but it had one really cool dark swatch, so I used that, and then I added some more paranormal artwork to the walls, as well as the gallery wall item from the Secret Sanctuary kit, which is the Bella Goth kit. I added a couple of bits of custom content in there, and then I put a cracked mirror on wall with a plant just to fill in the space, and moved on to painting all of the ceilings, which up to that point I'd completely forgotten about. I quickly went back to the kitchen because I'd seen a blank space I wanted to fill. I put a life and death certificate up there. I got a little bit of clutter next to the front door and I put up a broom in the kitchen as well, and I moved on to the living space. I actually used a fair bit of paranormal in here. I put a frame TV up as well from Secret Sanctuary. I used paranormal stuff for the fireplace, sofa and coffee table in this room. I did everything in blue and yellow colour schemes. I love the paranormal coffee table because it does have the flowers on the top. I used another life and death rug in here because it fit the colours really nicely, and I sized it up with Tool Mod. It took us a minute to pick a swatch, but I got there eventually. I wanted a wall of built-in bookcases, and I ended up using the ones from Crystal Creations because there's a version with a ladder and a version without. I added some plants around the edges for decoration, and I cluttered the shelves up a little bit as well. Just filled in the space with quite a lot of greenery, which doesn't really fit the vampires vibe, but I wanted it. And I put a little life and death rocking chair in the corner and put some art up on the walls. I used custom content pictures above the sofa, and I really wish I'd paid more attention to the swatches. I just would prefer that I'd put the red in between the two blue. And if I was able to go back and change it, I would switch those around, I think. I went and put some missing terrain paint out in the cemetery zone and finished it off with a couple of little touches. And that was everything, so please enjoy the screenshots. Thanks for watching. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe.